Today, I'm going to share the exact 10-step strategy that I used to lose 45 pounds in just 4 months and keep it off for good. And I've got a few bits of good news for you right off the bat. You're not going to have to follow a restrictive, boring diet where you're just eating salads all day. You're not going to have to spend your life at the gym. You're not going to have to give up your social life, and you're not going to have to do any boring cardio. Probably best of all, you're going to get to learn from all the mistakes that I've made, making it easier and faster for you to get there than I did. Every step is equally important, but most people, and when I say most people, I mean 95% of people, fail to lose weight and keep it off because they don't do the first step, or if they do, they don't do it properly. And that is to get in the right mindset, because you can have the right plan, you can have the perfect plan, you can know everything that there is to know, but if you don't start and if you aren't able to stick with it, who cares? If you want to lose weight and, more importantly, keep it off, you need a deep-rooted purpose and driver. My driver was actually twofold. It was partly intrinsic, but I was also partly extrinsically driven. Basically, I was heartbroken. I'd just broken up with a girl who I was madly in love with, and at the time, I was an insecure mess. I thought she was better than me in every way. I just felt completely inadequate. I also knew that she was into guys who were in shape, who were lean, who would six-pack shred. And who can blame her? And I wasn't. I was far from obese. Luckily, I'm tall, so I hid my fat well, but I was not in good shape. But that lit a raging fire under my butt. But being honest, that motivator and that driver wasn't ideal because it wasn't intrinsic. It was an extrinsic motivator. I was looking for the validation of other people. However, I was also intrinsically motivated because I was also on the cusp of turning 30 years old, and I didn't feel like I had much to show for my life. I was overweight, I was burnt out, and I was miserable. I'd suffered with anxiety and depression for at least 5 years, and I'd kind of just hit rock bottom. I'd reached that point, which I think every man and every woman does at some point, where I just decided that enough was enough. Something had to change. So before you even worry about what you want to do or how you're going to do it, you need to figure out why you want to do it. I strongly encourage you to spend a little bit of time. And when I say a little bit of time, I don't mean days and weeks, but just an hour where you sit down by yourself and think, why do I really want this? Because you cannot, and I really want to emphasize this, you cannot rely on motivation and willpower alone. You might be motivated right now. You're at the start of your journey, you're revved up, you're ready to go. But when you're 5 or 6 weeks in and it's a cold, dark, rainy Tuesday morning, you are not going to feel motivated. And this is where that intrinsic motivator, that purpose, that driver really comes into play. The other really important thing that you need to recognize about your mindset before you go into something like this is that your reality lags behind your identity by at least 6 months. Essentially what that means is that you need to change your ways. What has gotten you to this point is not going to get you to where you want to be. You need to adopt the habits, the behaviors, the rituals, the thought patterns, the lifestyle of the person that you want to become now. And that's exactly what I mean. Your identity needs to shift today so that your reality can shift in about 6 months' time. And the last thing I would say on your mindset is to recognize that there is never a perfect time to start this. Procrastination is the biggest problem when it comes to weight loss. A perfect example of this is a conversation that I had with a guy yesterday. He was interested in joining my coaching program. We had a bit of a back and forth on WhatsApp, and then he kind of dropped that classic, "Oh, well, I'm not sure because I'm just really busy right now." Let me tell you a home truth. You are always going to be busy, but wouldn't you rather learn how to do this stuff when you're busy, when it's hard, when you're stressed? Because then when life becomes that little bit less stressful, you've done it when it's hard, so now you can definitely do it when it's easy. People procrastinate on this stuff because they're scared that they're going to do the wrong thing, or because they're completely overwhelmed by the amount of information that they're being given and they don't know where to start. And that's exactly why I'm making this video. I'm going to lay out the 10 steps and the order that you want to do them in, so it is crystal clear for you. But the best thing that you can do is just start, because you probably will make mistakes. You probably will fail, but that's fine. Embrace that failure. As long as you're learning from the mistakes and figuring out what not to do next, you are going to win. No one who does this stuff makes it to their goal, to their objective, without making a single mistake. There's an amazing story that I heard on a podcast that I think is super relevant, and I want to quickly share it with you now. There was a former SAS, a UK military man in the Special Forces, who was asked by one of his friends for some advice. And he basically said that when you're in the woods and when you're lost and when you're alone and when you don't know which direction to go in, the best thing that you can do is just start walking. Because if you just stand still, you're going to fail. And ultimately, you in that example, you're going to die. So if you're serious about losing weight, about burning body fat, the first step that you want to take is definitely getting in the right mindset. Step number 2 is a very straightforward and simple one. It's to clean up your environment. They say that a tidy house is a tidy mind. It's less chaotic. Well, you need to apply that logic with your environment. You want to go through all your cupboards, you want to go through your fridge, you want to go through your freezer, and you want to remove any high calorie temptations that you can find, any high sugar, high fat snacks, chocolates, crisps, biscuits, alcohol, whatever it might be, whatever your vice is, just get rid of it. Imagine you had a friend who came to you and admitted that they were an alcoholic. What's the first thing that you would encourage them to do? It would be to pour all the booze that they've got in that house down the sink. Because if every time you open your fridge or that cupboard and you're greeted by the delicious smell of your favorite snack, that same snack that's been holding you back from losing weight, you might have the motivation and the willpower to resist for a couple of days, maybe even a week. But what happens when something goes wrong? When you get sick or hungover or have a stressful day? All of that motivation and willpower is going to go out the window, out of sight, out of mind. That's the simple principle that you want to employ here. Step number 3 is that you need to know your numbers. When you want to lose weight and it comes to your food, the first priority for you is to know how much you should be eating. To do that, you need to know something called your maintenance calorie number. This is the number of calories that you would need to consume if you just wanted to stay the same, if you wanted to stay at the same weight and the same body fat percentage. And then what you need to do is put yourself in a caloric deficit. You can do this by eating a little bit less or moving a little bit more, or ideally a combination of the two. In other words, you are eating less than your maintenance calories. Your body has no choice but to use and to burn the stored fat, the stored energy that you have in your body as fuel. I mentioned the stat earlier, but 95% of people fail to lose weight and keep it off because they're focused on a restrictive diet, on a restrictive method, whether it's vegan, carnivore, keto, intermittent fasting, South Beach, or whatever else, it doesn't even matter. The best diet for you is the one that you can stick to. And the reality is, for 99% of people, that diet is going to be a combination of methods. But what's far more important is for you to focus on the principle. And the principle is understanding how much you should be eating and creating a calorie deficit. You don't need to be restricting certain food groups or eating at a certain time of the day or eating a certain number of meals. The best thing that you can do is understand the laws of thermodynamics, know your numbers, your maintenance calories and your calorie deficit, and then stick to them. I recommend you do that using something called Pareto's law, where essentially you're eating 80% of your food for function and 20% for fun. And by doing that, it gives you a lot more freedom with what you eat. You don't feel like you have to eat this boring, restrictive diet just made up of salad, which you're going to eventually give up on because it's just too boring. 2 recommendations I would make to you when you go about creating your calorie deficit. First and foremost, don't make the mistake that I made. I was able to lose so much weight in such a short period of time, partly because of the fact that I was eating in a 1,000 calorie deficit every single day. If you eat in a 1,000 calorie deficit every single day for 1 week, you're going to burn 2 pounds of fat. That's because there are 3,500 calories in 1 pound of fat. So if I was to burn 1,000 calories for 7 days in a week, that's going to be 7,000 calories. 3,500 times by 2 is 2 pounds of fat. And I'm not lying to you when I said that there were some nights that I genuinely cried myself to sleep because I was so damn hungry. My approach was not sustainable, and it's not something that I'd recommend to anybody. What's far more realistic and palatable is to try to burn 1 pound of fat each week to create a 3,500 calorie deficit. Now, the most commonly spoken about way to do that is to be in a 500 calorie deficit every single day. But being honest with you, that's not that realistic either, because every day is different, every day is unpredictable, and that gets a little bit boring. So what I recommend you do is calculate your maintenance calories, subtract 500 for that number, giving you a 500 calorie deficit, multiply that number by 7, and that gives you a weekly calorie allowance. So let's do a very simple working example. Let's say that my maintenance calories was 2,500. It's not, that's just an example. My recommended calorie deficit number would be 2,000 calories per day. But rather than trying to stick to 2,000 calories every single day, whether it's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that sounds boring me even saying it. What I'm going to do is multiply that 2,000 by 7, giving me a 14,000 calorie weekly allowance. That gives me a lot more control, gives me a lot more freedom as well. Now I can have low calorie days, which I would typically do at the start of the week when my stress level's a little bit lower, and my motivation is a little bit higher. And also I have less social commitments. And then towards the back end of the week where maybe I want to go out and have some fun with my friends, whether that's be have a couple of drinks or have a meal out or whatever that might be. Maybe I'm a little bit more stressed, maybe I'm a little bit more tired, maybe I've had a busy week and I just want to eat a little bit more. I don't want to be like so restricted on myself with my food, so I'm going to have higher calorie days. But if you plan your week proactively and you say every Sunday, right, I'm going to spend 5 minutes planning my week, right, okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I've got nothing going on, so I'm going to aim to eat 1,750 calories on those days. That's going to give me an extra 750 calories, which I can then spread over maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or you could even do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 250 calories less than that. So 1,750 calories Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's going to now give me 1,000 calories extra, which I can have on Friday, Saturday, on Sunday combined. So you see what I mean? This method, hopefully that makes sense. This method gives you a lot more control and a lot more freedom. And that is the key word here, freedom. If you're in control, if you have freedom, you are far more likely to stick to this stuff. So those are the two recommendations that I would make once you've figured out your maintenance calorie number. I would not be eating in a super crazy calorie deficit like I did, and I would be looking at my calories in the context of the whole week rather than day to day. And if you want my help calculating your maintenance calories and what I would recommend your calorie deficit to be, then you can click the first link in the description that's underneath this video and use my completely free calorie calculator. What I'll do is send you my recommendations for you, and I will also take the time to explain all your numbers in detail so you know exactly what you do. And that is going to give you a lot more peace of mind. And again, it comes back to, it's going to give you a lot more control. It's going to give you a lot more freedom. So that is step number 3. Know your numbers, figure out how much you should be eating. Step number 4 is then thinking about what you should be eating, the quality of your calories. Now, in my opinion here, you want to optimize for 2 things. First of all, you want to make your weight loss, your fat loss journey as easy as possible. And secondly, you want to be optimizing what you eat for your overall health. When it comes to the quality of your calories, there are 5 principles that I recommend that you follow. I recommend that every single person, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're 18 or 80 years old, eats a high protein diet with plenty of fiber, drinks lots of water, tries to avoid junk food and limits the amount of processed food they eat. And if you're really serious about losing weight and you want to lose it fast, avoid alcohol too. Now, in the interest of time, I'm not going to deep dive into each of those 5 because quite frankly, I've already done videos about each of those 5, which you can find on my channel, but I will quickly cover the main benefit of each. The main benefit of protein and fiber in the context of weight loss and fat loss is that it satiates you. And it does this because it fills your stomach physically. And it fills your stomach because it's harder for your body to break down and digest than it is for your body to break down the carbs and the fat. It just takes a little bit longer. And in the case of some fiber, it's actually impossible for your body to break it down, which is why fiber helps with your digestive health. But you will notice if you eat more protein and you eat more fiber that you'll feel fuller and you won't feel as hungry. The big benefit with water is pretty similar. When you drink a lot of water, again, physically fills your stomach and it sends those same signals to your brain that you are full. However, the other big benefit of water when it comes to weight loss and fat loss is that it acts a little bit like a secondary energy system. Calories are our primary source of fuel, but people don't realize just how sensitive we are to dehydration. If you become just 1 to 2% dehydrated, your brain is very sensitive to this and it notices. And what it does is it starts to shut down non-essential processes in your body. And what that looks like in reality is you become very lethargic. And when you're lethargic, you're lazy. And when you're lazier, you're less likely to get up, to get out, and to do stuff. In other words, you're far less likely to burn calories. You just don't have the oomph, the drive. So staying hydrated is going to keep you active. The reason I suggest avoiding junk food and limiting processed food as much as you can is twofold. First and foremost, processed food isn't even real food. You have to think about this. It is manufactured, not produced. Secondly, junk food and processed food is going to inflame your gut more. It's going to make it harder for your body to absorb the nutrients from the food that you're eating. It's going to decrease the amount of serotonin, which is your happy hormone that your gut can produce, because 90 to 95% of your serotonin is actually produced in your gut. And if you're not happy, you're just not going to find this stuff as easy. Alcohol is going to have a very similar effect. It's going to inflame your gut. It's going to affect your gut microbiome in a negative way. There are calories in alcohol, which a lot of people just aren't aware of, or if they are, they're not aware of the amount of calories that they're getting from alcohol. But the worst thing about alcohol is that it's going to destroy your sleep. And that's actually step number 5. So let's talk a little bit about that now. When it comes to weight loss and fat loss, sleep is incredibly important. And that's because when you focus on your sleep, when you focus on the quantity, the quality, and the regularity, and you're well slept and well rested, all of your hormones are going to be brought back into balance. But I'm not just talking about your sex hormones, your testosterone or your estrogen. I'm also talking about your stress hormone, your cortisol, and your hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin. You know what it's like when you wake up after a terrible night's sleep. You feel awful. You've got no drive to get up and to do anything hard like go for a workout. And you don't even want to eat healthy food. Your brain is on fight or flight mode. It wants you to reach for the most hyper-palatable, high-sugar, high-fat snack that is the closest to you. It just wants glucose, sugar. So the reason that sleep is so important when it comes to weight loss and fat loss is more about the mental aspect. It's more about making this whole process as easy as possible for you as it can be. So when it comes to your sleep, you want to focus on 3 things. The quantity of your sleep, the quality of your sleep, and the regularity of your sleep. Most people will tell you need to sleep anything from 7 to 9 hours, but truth be told, it varies person to person. I mean, first of all, I don't know anybody who is sleeping 9 hours every single night, and if you are, I'm incredibly jealous of you. But equally, the quantity of your sleep is directly related to the quality of your sleep. And what I mean by that is that you could sleep 7 hours, but it could be a very high quality, deep sleep, and you're going to feel amazing. Equally, you could sleep 9 hours, but it's an awful, shallow sleep, and you wake up and you feel terrible. And that's why the quantity and the quality are equally important. The simplest thing to do to figure out how much you need to be sleeping is to start with 7 hours. And if you wake up feeling tired, just add 15 minutes every night until you no longer feel tired in the morning. If it gets to the point where you're sleeping 8 or maybe even 9 hours, if you're one of the lucky few, and you're still feeling exhausted, then we need to focus on the quality of your sleep. And the easiest thing we can do to improve your sleep quality is to focus on your sleep environment. Specifically 4 things. We want to make your room as cold as possible, as dark as possible, as quiet as possible, and as well ventilated as possible. So the 4 very quick and easy, cheap, actionable steps that you can take to do that are as follows. Buy blackout blinds or sleep with an eye mask. Invest in a good set of earplugs. Get yourself a fan or even aircon and sleep with your bedroom door open. That might sound like a substantial investment, but you'd be surprised. You can go on Amazon today, right now, and get all 3 of those things, earplugs, a fan, and an eye mask, for probably less than £50 or $100. And wouldn't you say that investing in your sleep is worthwhile if it's going to help you to lose weight, lose fat, far quicker and far easier, and ultimately help you to become a healthier and happier version of yourself? I would say that's a very worthwhile investment. And if you're still struggling with the quality of your sleep after you've done those 4 things, then I suggest you implement the best wind down routine that I know of, which is called the 3-2-1 rule. This is where you stop eating 3 hours before you go to sleep, you stop drinking anything 2 hours before you go to sleep, and you come off all of your screens, whether it's your phone, your laptop, your TV, iPad, or whatever else, an hour before bed. Stopping eating 3 hours before you go to sleep gives your body enough time to be able to complete the most laborious part of digesting your food. Digestion is a metabolic process, which means it raises your heart rate. And any process that raises your heart rate contradicts what we want when we want to go to sleep. We want to be in a restorative state. We want our heart rate to be at a resting level, which is a low level. And if you stop drinking liquids 2 hours before you go to sleep, you're far less likely to wake up in the night and need to go to the toilet. So your sleep is going to be less disrupted. And all of these devices that we're all obsessed with these days, whether it's your phone, your laptop, your TV, they all emit blue light, which blocks the production and release of our sleep hormone called melatonin into our bloodstream. So in other words, they're keeping us wired, they're keeping us awake. All right, we're halfway through. Let's talk about step number 6. Now you know how much you should be eating and what you should be eating, you need to start tracking it. A lot of people get put off at this step because they think that tracking their food using an app like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer is going to be some kind of life sentence. It's going to be some very arduous and time-consuming process that they're going to have to do for years and years, or if not the rest of their life. But it couldn't be further from the truth. Yes, I'm not going to lie to you. When you first start doing it, it might be a little bit awkward. It might take you a few minutes every single day. But the fact is, and I know this having worked with well over 100 clients all over the world for the last 5 years as a personal trainer and a nutritionist, that if you stick to this process and you do it diligently for 6 to 8 weeks, you're never going to have to do it for the rest of your life. Because what tracking your food really does is gives you an education. It gives you an education on the nutritional value of the food that you're eating. And it helps you to build an amazing level of self-awareness that 99% of the world's population do not have about their food. You will start to look at food and be able to see numbers. You'll become a little bit like Neo in the Matrix. You'll be able to look at a plate or a bowl of food and pretty much be able to calculate how many calories and a rough macronutrient mix on that plate. And that is a superpower. And I'm not being funny. If you're going to skip this step, how do you know if you've created a calorie deficit? You're not going to have a single iota of how much you're actually eating. Now, the mistake I made on this when I first did this and when I lost the 45 pounds I mentioned earlier was that I decided to use an Excel spreadsheet. Don't make that mistake. There are plenty of apps. There's plenty of free apps out there that enable you to track your food. They have extensive food databases where you can quickly plug in the food that you've eaten. What you'll also find is as you go through this process, you realize that you're a creature of habit. You eat the same 5 to 10 things every week or every couple of weeks. So once you've done it for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, as long as you do it every single day and you're meticulous and you stick to the routine, it will become so easy you won't even think about it. More valuable and more important than that is you'll start to see and feel the benefits having done it. So your brain will start to correlate the positive cause and effect of this healthy habit. Okay, so we've talked about your mindset, we've talked about your food, we've talked about your environment, and we've talked about your sleep. Now we need to switch the focus and talk a little bit about your movement. Because remember what I said earlier, when you're creating that calorie deficit, it's not just about eating less. In fact, I wouldn't recommend you just create that calorie deficit by eating less. What I'd suggest you do is create your 500 calorie deficit by consuming 500 calories less and moving 500 calories more. When you move more, you are increasing your maintenance calories. And that's because your maintenance calorie number is based on 4 physiological factors: your age, your weight, your height, and your sex. But also the fifth and probably the most crucial aspect of it is how active your lifestyle is. But as I said right at the beginning of this video, I'm not talking here about living in the gym or having to go out on runs every single day. Yeah, we are gonna want you to be more active, but just like with your nutrition, we want this approach to be very sustainable. And that's why step number 7 is nice and simple. It's to walk more. People don't realize, or they don't appreciate, I should say, just how powerful walking is when it comes to weight loss and fat loss. And simply put, it's just because it's not that sexy. But if you were to walk 10,000 steps a day or 70,000 steps a week, you would burn 300 to 500 calories more a day. So you could burn a pound of fat by eating the exact same amount, but walking 10,000 steps each day for a week. Because let's say you're at the top end of that spectrum and you're burning 500 calories by walking 10,000 steps, and you did that every day for a week, that adds up to 3,500 calories, which is exactly how many calories you need to burn to lose 1 pound of fat. So do you see what I mean? You could literally not change your diet at all, start walking more, and lose weight very quickly. Now again, that's an extreme example. I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm just showing you how possible this is. And it's also worth saying that most people won't burn 500 calories by walking 10,000 steps, because the amount of calories that you burn doing anything is based on how much you weigh and the intensity of that exercise. So in the case of walking, how fast you're walking, the terrain you're walking on, the angle you're walking at, whatever it might be. But let's say you're at the low end and you're burning 300 calories a day by walking 10,000 steps. You are still going to burn 2,100 calories every single week just from walking. Like I say, it's not sexy, but it's very easy to be sustainable. There's no risk of injury. You're going to get plenty of fresh air. If the sun's shining, you're going to get lots of vitamin D. It allows you to change your environment, so it takes away the stress that you might be experiencing at home or in the office. And it even activates a part of your nervous system called your parasympathetic nervous system, which is linked to rest, relaxation, and restoration. So essentially, walking helps you to lower your stress levels. And the coolest part about walking is that you can multitask whilst you're doing it, whether it's listening to a podcast, an audiobook, or a new playlist, catching up with a friend on the phone, or even taking a walking meeting with work, because let's be honest, everybody is sick of those inane Zoom calls. But aside from walking, to live a more active lifestyle, very simply, I'd recommend that you just consciously do more stuff. And that's step number 8. Because remember, you're burning calories when you're doing anything. So think about cleaning your house, doing some gardening, walking to the supermarket and carrying the groceries home, running around playing with your kids, even having sex with your partner. All of these things, and by the way, that's just a very short list of examples, burn calories. People get put off the idea of even starting to lose weight because they think that they're going to have to spend their life at the gym or do a ton of cardio. And of course, that is going to help, but it's not necessary. Saying all of that, I expect you don't just want to lose a ton of weight. What you probably want is to change your body composition. Most people want to feel healthy. They want to change their body composition and they want to be lean. They don't necessarily want to be six-pack shredded or have bulging biceps, but they want to look good. They want to feel good. They want to have confidence. And this is where your workouts come in, because you can absolutely lose a ton of weight without even setting foot in the gym or ever doing a run. But if you want to change your body composition, you're going to want to do some resistance training. You're going to want to lift weights. But workouts are this slow down in the process on purpose, because I would much rather that you start with those first 8 steps, get a little bit of momentum, build some confidence, and then get into the gym. I went crazy with my workouts when I was doing this, because I, maybe like you right now, was convinced that I had to do them to burn the fat. And of course, it contributed to the fact that I was able to lose so much weight in such a short space of time. But you don't need to do this. I really want to emphasize that. What you do out of the gym is far more important, because even if you were to work out 5 or 6 days a week and do 2 hours a session like Arnold Schwarzenegger used to, you would only be spending 6 or 7% of your life, of your week, in the gym. So what you do in that 90+% outside of the gym is going to count for 20 times more. Whenever you are ready to get in the gym, I'd recommend you follow a very simple protocol. Aim to do 3 45-minute full body workouts a week. That's less than 3 hours, which is less than 2% of your week in the gym, which, let's be honest, everybody can find the time to do. I'd recommend you focus on compound movements, which are multi-joint, multi-muscle exercises like squats, deadlifts, lunges, bent over rows, pull-ups, push-ups and dips and other stuff like that. Make sure the workouts have a relative high intensity, and you can do that by making sure that the rest periods between your sets are short and that the weights that you're lifting are challenging but achievable. And try to progressively overload, which is very straightforward. Simply put, it's where you try to increase the volume that you're lifting every time you attempt a particular exercise. So a very simple example would be if I wanted to do a leg press and I was doing 50 kilos and I did 3 sets and 10 reps per set. I would go in there next time and maybe I would try and do 60 kilos and I'd keep the reps and the sets the same. Or maybe if I couldn't lift any more weight, I'd try and get 12 reps out of a set, or I might even add an extra set. And just like we spoke about at the beginning of this video with your food, write out a plan at the start of the week and stick to it. Track the weights that you're lifting. I promise you, if you do this, if you go in with a plan, it will make it so much easier to stick with it. And it will also make it more enjoyable because you will be able to see the progress that you're making. Last on the list, step number 10 is supplements. And it's last on the list because even though you might think it's the sexiest, it's the least important. Supplements are going to make 1% of the difference. Everything else that we've talked about is what's going to get you 99% of the way there. But the very simple, safe, and affordable stack of supplements that I recommend to every one of my clients is vitamin D, a multivitamin, creatine, and omega-3s. As I say, these are some of the most affordable, most widely available, safest, and most researched supplements that you can find, but they're also going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. Those are the 10 steps, guys. But before you click off this video, there's something I just want to say. None of this matters without consistency. And that's why step 1 was step 1, getting in the right mindset. Make a plan, whether it's with your food or your workouts. If you make a plan, you are essentially holding yourself to account. And track your data. I cannot emphasize this enough. Whether it's your calories and your protein, which you can do using one of the food tracking apps, how much water you're drinking, how much sleep you're getting a night, how much you're lifting in the gym, how many steps you're doing a day, anything else like that. The more data you have, the more logic you have. The more logic you have, the more rational decisions that you make, the more control that you have. It also means there's going to be less emotion involved and less guesswork. And last but not least, don't over-optimize. The first time you watch this video, and I say the first time because you might want to watch it 2 or 3 times because I appreciate you've gone through a lot of stuff, you might feel a little bit overwhelmed. But if you write down step 1 to 10 and just put mindset, environment, quantity of calories, quality of calories, sleep, tracking, walking, doing more stuff, workout, and supplement, just those 10 words. If you take nothing else from this video, take those 10 words. They're going to be more than enough to help you get started. But whatever you do, and I know there's going to be people out there tempted to do this, don't start on step number 4 or step number 7. Essentially, don't start where you're most comfortable. Anyone can do that. That's easy. Start at the top with your mindset and go through these steps one after the other. And I promise you, that is your shortcut to success. Write this down. Simple things done well, sustained over an extended period of time. That's your new mantra. I'm not saying that this is easy, but if you follow this step-by-step guide, it will be simple. Anyway, we've covered a lot today, but I really hope you've enjoyed this video. More importantly though, I hope you found it useful. If you have, I would absolutely love it if you could show your support, smash the thumbs up button to like the video, drop a comment, let me know where you feel like you've been holding yourself back up until now. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss my next video. And until then, bye.